The news today felt very nostalgic. I couldn't really put my finger on what was so familiar about it, but then I realized what it was. The infamous Phase Jev clip with the whole Requise spiel. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go find the clip. But in this case, today, Requise was Bungie. After 11 long months of Eager Edge being in the game and people developing all sorts of crazy speed tech that really made Destiny feel kind of fun to goof around in again, Bungie decided to take away the fun toys. And by take away, I mean they threw my toy into the burning depths of hell. I'm over-exaggerating, of course, but they did nerf Eager Edge pretty heavily today. So if you don't know, Eager Edge is a perk in Destiny 2. You can get it on the other half sword and the Half-Truth sword, both of which come from Dares of Eternity. And so if you don't know, Eager Edge allowed you to go fast on every single character in the game. Some characters have unique things such as well skating, bubble skating, shatter skating. Each character had its own kind of little cool thing going for it. Those things are still possible, but a lot of what made Eager Edge what it was got taken away from us today. As soon as you swing your sword with Eager Edge procced, the perk is taken away immediately. And now you're probably wondering yourself, why does this matter? Well, let me explain. So, these weapons were introduced into the game with the 30th anniversary pack that Bungie dropped last November, which was November of 2021. And when these swords released and people found the speed tech, people assumed that this was the replacement, and they kind of made it sound like this was the replacement for something that had been taken from us previously, which was called Worldline Skating, which was basically class exclusive to Warlocks. So everybody was under the assumption that this was the alternative, but now every single class could use it. You could swipe around the map, you could go really fast, and it just makes the game more enjoyable because you're just able to go at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Fast forward up until August 24th when this season launched. That duration is about 9 months of Bungie not saying, to my knowledge, anything about Eager Edge being a problem for the game. And keep in mind, this was just the regular Eager Edge perk. So at the beginning of this season, which was August 24th season of the Plunder, they reintroduced the Dares of Eternity weapons back into the loot pool that were now craftable. So I'm assuming you guys know a fair portion of how crafting works. You were able to get enhanced versions of perks if you level up a weapon to a certain point, which makes it usually so that a perk's duration lasts a little bit longer or gives a slight benefit to whatever it may be. In the case of Eager Edge, it allowed the perk to be procced just a little bit longer. So you could go from 2 swipes on the ground to 3 swipes. So the entire incentive of these weapons being reintroduced into the loot pool was so that you could get slightly better versions of the perks that you already had on these Dares of Eternity weapons. In the case of Eager Edge, for anybody who is a very avid player of the game, having a little bit of extra Eager Edge time is kind of nice, and it makes the movement just a lot smoother. But it did come at a cost, though. They required players to go back into the Dares of Eternity to regrind for red border versions of the weapons so that you could unlock the crafting pattern to craft whatever weapon you wanted. Again, in this case, we're talking about the sword. So the other half sword, it only required 1 border to get, which is nice. It was the rarest drop in the game previously, but they buffed the drop rate, and it seems like most people got that before they got the Half-Truth sword, which was normally the more common one. But the Half-Truth sword now required 5 red borders in order to be able to craft it again. And unfortunately, that is also the case for every other weapon in the Dares of Eternity loot pool, is that you need 5 of that weapon, red border, complete to be able to unlock the crafting pattern. Just so that you could get a few enhanced perks, which were basically non-existently noticeable to their counterparts that weren't enhanced. It is obviously an optional grind, but it also is kind of a slap in the face to reintroduce these weapons later to say, oh hey, here's a slightly better version of the weapon that you already grinded for a ridiculous amount of hours. Myself personally, I finally crafted all the Dares weapons. I would say relatively it probably took me close to 150 keys and maybe like 15 to 25 hours of Dares alone to be able to craft every single weapon in there. And to anybody who has crafted either of the swords from Dares of Eternity at this point with Eager Edge on it or Enhanced Eager Edge, there's no difference anymore. Whether you have enhanced or normal anymore, the only difference is that you have a slightly, and I mean the most slight possible, difference in time between when you pull out the sword to proc Eager Edge and when it goes away. The entire reason to craft these swords in the first place is to be able to get enhanced Eager Edge. Let's be honest. Nobody cares about the enhanced other perks on the sword. That's the entire reason to do it, or was the entire reason to do it. If your goal is damage, there are other swords that do a better job than either of the Dares of Eternity swords. And the biggest problem I have with this whole situation is basically just being blindsided. They did this with World Lining 2, where it was just kind of like a, hey, we're doing this now, and this has been a problem for a while, but we never really actually said anything, and it just happens. And especially right now, when one of the newest and biggest pieces of content in the game, the Duality Dungeon, is having very, very bad bug issues, where literally, sometimes if you shoot the bell, just doing the mechanic how it's supposed to work, you just die. That has been an issue in the dungeon for months, has remained unfixed. They're aware of it, but has not been touched. So I just genuinely don't understand where the priority is. Because I understand that some things take longer to fix than others, but you can't use that as a shield forever. That is not fair. And now I'd like to share with you guys a few tweets from DMG, who's the community manager at Bungie. And let me just start off by saying, do not attack anybody personally. This is Bungie as a whole. Please do not shoot the messenger. Enhanced Eager Edge. Team was finding numerous issues where the perk could be used to skip encounters, break mechanics, and generally cause issues with the game. Okay, let me stop you right there. The game being broken is not an exclusivity to Eager Edge, okay? Being able to out of bounds and use heat rises to fly around while infinite sword flying with Lion Rampants and any other sword in the game has been a thing since 2017. That is just not true. It does help people assist in being able to go out of bounds and do these crazy things in the game, but you reap what you sow. This was gone untalked about for 11 months. And if I recall correctly, the same excuse was used when they nerfed World Line 0, so you could not skate with it anymore. They said that it broke mechanics, broke encounters, it changed the way that they had to design encounters, and they didn't want it a part of the game anymore. As far as breaking mechanics go, I can't name a single mechanic that I have seen actually technically broken from Eager Edge alone. And general issues with the game. I don't know if this is in regards to like hit regulation, because in Crucible, Eager Edge did go kind of crazy as far as like where it would hit people from and how it works. But I will say, sword hit registration is not an exclusivity to Eager Edge either. I've had swords blank on people all the way since back when like swords were introduced. I can't tell you the amount of times I've had falling guillotine in Crucible, and I'd literally just go right through somebody's body. It's ridiculous. And it's not just a PvP thing either. Like, Lament is notorious for it. If you've used the Lament exotic in Destiny 2, you know what I'm talking about. Comms aside, we always seek call-out changes like this ahead of time, while also providing the dev commentary / insight to keep you in the loop. With hotfixes coming more quickly as of late, this slipped through. We're talking to the team on how we can better prep in the future. I just don't understand what qualifies as ahead of time. Again, this is tech that was known about for 11 months. Did they ever say that they didn't want it in their game? No, they didn't. I know at one point they did mention that they were going to look into shatter skating and whether or not they wanted to keep that in the game, but that's just one specific instance. That's not Eager Edge as a whole. 2. Timing-wise, some changes can be developed rather quickly, but held for future hotfixes or patches so they aren't felt as targeted. If this were in a seasonal patch with a bunch of weapon ability changes, it would still sting, but general buffs could help the overall mood. I agree to some extent, but at the same time, if I buy my child a puppy, and I let my child get very attached to the puppy for about 10 months or so, and they're led to believe that the puppy is going to be around for a long time, because not a thing has been said about the puppy having to leave, and then I just go sell the puppy one day without telling my kid, what do you think is going to happen? Really, all that I'm asking is a simple, hey guys, I know we introduced this perk, and it seems that you guys love it, but sometime in the future, we're probably going to get rid of it because it's a very big problem for development of the game and it's causing a lot of problems. This is the second time now that players have gotten attached to movement tech and kind of makes Destiny 2 what it is as far as like the end game goes. The skill gap is learning speed tech and just goofing around, flying around the map with your friends, just trying to have fun. And obviously a game being broken and hard to develop because of certain broken aspects of the game is a dual-edged sword. Because the broken stuff of Destiny 2 is what makes the game what it is and makes it fun a lot of times, but at the same time, if it's causing real problems, it does need to be addressed. So the scale definitely needs to be balanced in an appropriate way, but I really just don't appreciate placing specific blame on something that doesn't deserve the entirety of the blame. Obviously, Eager Edge made things easier to break, if you want to call it that, but it wasn't the main catalyst in the first place, and that is a fact. There are many other things that causes Destiny to break as far as like breaking encounter goes and stuff, such as heat rises, infinite sword flying with Lion Rampants and any sword in the game, infinite sparrow flying to literally the moon. All of those things don't even take into consideration the power creep that is present at the very end level of the game once you acquire the best weapons in the game, how bad the power creep gets. I think that's more of an overall problem than any of the other things that I mentioned, but that's just my personal opinion. At the end of the day, they're going to do whatever they think is best for the game, and in my personal opinion, I think they need to be hiring the people that find this speed tech as their playtesters. If this is something you really don't want in your game, it needs to be eliminated before you put it into your players' hands. Can't let them get attached to it and then just take it away. Because I do have a very strong feeling that eventually in the future, Eager Edge skating as a whole upon all three classes will be taken away. That's just my intuition, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens.